Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Hunger Free Communities quarterly webinar. We're just going to give folks a minute to join us here today, and really happy to see those of you joining today, and really thrilled to bring you this content. So we'll just give folks a second to join us before we get started. I'm Minerva Delgado with the Alliance to End Hunger. As you know, we're the group behind the Hunger Free Communities Network, and just really appreciate you all being with us. And today we're going to hear two presentations, and then we're going to hear from the Alliance about our policy priorities for 2023. In addition, we're very excited to be able to give you the opportunity to share any announcements you have or any news a little later in the agenda. So we'll just give folks one more minute before we go ahead and jump in. But while we're waiting for folks to join, I'll go ahead and share the agenda. So we're going to be hearing today from Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, and here's some implementation updates from them. And so with us, we have Dolores Ramirez, who's the Vision Director, and Joel McClurg, who's the Integration Director, and just really excited that they could join us today. In addition, we're going to be learning from Benefits Data Trust. And with us, we have Jillian Humphreys, who's the policy manager there. So you'll learn all about Benefits Data Trust and the work that they're doing. And hopefully you'll find some of that useful in the work that you're doing. So we'll go ahead without any further ado and get started. And I'll turn it over right now to Joel and Dolores. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Minerva. Can you see my screen okay? Can you give me a thumbs up? Awesome. Thank you so much. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for allowing Dolores and I the opportunity to speak. My name is Joel McClurg, he, him, his, with the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger. I'm happy to report out on what we've been up to the last few years in regards to implementation of our framework. So talk about how we work, what we believe in, and what we've accomplished together. And then I'll hand things off to Dolores to talk about the future. So for those who are less familiar with the Blueprint, I'll just do a quick background. But basically, the Blueprint was conceived in 2015 by the Colorado Health Foundation with acknowledgement that hunger is a major driver of social determinants of health. And so it behooved us in Colorado to really address hunger in a very meaningful way. And so how can we do that with a large 5-year grant that really focused on addressing some of the root causes of hunger and seeing where we could move the needle. So we did a statewide listening tour, lit reviews, quantitative analyses, stakeholder meetings to kind of create this collaborative effort to create a blueprint document, a document outlining how we were going to address hunger in Colorado. And once that report was released in 2018, then going into 2019, we hired program office staff, Aaron Ulrich, who was the implementation director and who spoke to the Alliance last time about the blueprint and kind of standing it up, carried the blueprint through until July of 2022. And then she departed, and then we shifted to a co-director structure with myself and Dolores. And since we've been just, engaged in our ongoing efforts to make Colorado a hunger-free state. And how we do that is across our 5 goals. The first is around public and political will, increasing public understanding and awareness about hunger in Colorado and how we solve it. Goals 2 and 3 are very closely aligned, as you'll see, increasing the number of Coloradans who have local access to nutritious food, so retail setting in their communities, and then increasing the number of Coloradans who have smooth access to food through local organizations, charitable setting. So we combine those groups together. So do you have healthful, culturally appropriate, accessible food in both a retail and charitable setting in your local community? Number 4, maximizing some of the nutrition assistance programs we have in America within Colorado. Looking at enrollment for SNAP and WIC and making sure we're really maximizing who is participating in those programs as they're eligible. And then number 5 is maximizing utilization of child nutrition programs in Colorado, both in and outside of school, not just within the school lunchroom and cafeteria, but using things like summer meals and congregate feeding programs to make sure that our kiddos have all the food they need to, reach their full human potential. our structure looks like this. There's not a hierarchy within the work groups. They're just structured kind of 1 through 5, but you can see each work group is attached to the specific goal, public political will, access to food and communities, et cetera. And then there are project teams that kind of fade in and out based on of the moment priorities identified by the work. So you look at work group 4, for instance, improving SNAP access for people who are houseless. That was raised to us by a nonprofit Pay What You Can Cafe. They really wanted to look at application retention for people who are houseless in SNAP. And so we've been addressing that on an as needed basis for the last year or so. So those project teams really just of the moment fading in and out to support the larger goals. As you can see, we have a governing council along the side made up of 20 members who oversee strategy and finances for the blueprint. And then we have committees such as the policy committee and a data and evaluation committee over the entirety of the blueprint, kind of helping direct those initiatives, both state and federal level policy, and then looking at impact. And of course, an equity framework across the entirety of the blueprint, because equity doesn't just happen in one localized place. It's a foundation that you really build from and integrate into every facet of your work. And then, of course, the Blueprint Program Office, they're carrying it all. So what we believe, just as we've sort of been engaging in the goals with stakeholders, we've been able to refine our goals into more, actionable items, I would almost say, whereas the goals are very high level. This is how they kind of manifest based on the work we've been doing through these guiding stars. I won't read through every single one. I will definitely send the slides out after. But as an example, number 2 and 3, which was on culturally appropriate and charitable food access in communities, working towards a Colorado with an interconnected and coordinated food system that creates a welcoming and safe environment for families and communities to share healthy food together. In this new place, food is healthy and affordable, and food access is equitable and easy. It's much more of a how. It's a little bit more prescriptive on how we want to do it, and there's definitely an equity element injected in. And of course, our vision, a Colorado where every person can access the food they choose based on cultural appropriateness, preference, dietary restrictions, where they want it in their local communities, easily, and when they need it, kind of as an indicator of frequency. So some of the things we've accomplished together, these are this very foundational sort of core pillars kind of work, but making sure we have an infrastructure that supports local community efforts. We acknowledge that communities have been feeding themselves and finding ways, to feed themselves for years and years and years. So we want to empower and uplift those practices and see if we can resource them better rather than appropriating them and taking them away and suggesting that we somehow know better. We support state policy changes through coalition and organizing, building capacity locally for more people to participate in policy processes, and creating a data and evaluation framework that is shared across many organizations so that we all kind of acknowledge the different waypoints, the markers that we're using to assess success in this area. Of course, engaging individuals who have lived expertise with hunger and putting them into leadership positions throughout the blueprint as co-chairs, as consultants kind of across the work, and making sure they are compensated fairly for the perspective and expertise that they provide. And then, of course, shifting public understanding and engaging in public will, political will building to really acknowledge how addressing hunger helps all of us, right? And how it can really hurt us if we don't. Some of the community wins I will go through quickly before I hand things off to Dolores, but over the last 3 years, since 2019, as we look at the back half of the blueprint, as we were supposed to sunset in at the end of September 2024, but increasing WIC retailers across the state through localized grants, especially with the focus on local retailers who maybe traditionally haven't been WIC or SNAP retailers, such as your local comisaria. Looking at different programs that support children outside of school, like CACFP, Congregate Adult Child Feeding Program, and the Summer Food Service Program, and making sure that there are more sites for those. And then looking at best practices for SNAP. Colorado is a county administered SNAP state. That means each county has its own SNAP office, own entity, so there are different practices, but doing a statewide look to identify the best practices around texting clients, around accepting signatures for SNAP telephonically, and seeing how we can sort of amplify those statewide. Looking at family journeys in WIC and SNAP from soup to nuts, start to finish application to ongoing enrollment for families who are in these programs in Colorado, and identifying barriers and bottlenecks. We have a great child nutrition program asset map. It takes all these different child nutrition programs, some of the ones I mentioned, but also like school breakfast and school lunch, and overlays them on a GIS map so you can identify gaps in service areas or where additional services could be really helpful. Food program market materials around SNAP, especially for healthcare providers. So creating a toolkit that really helps healthcare providers understand how to enroll folks into SNAP or talk about SNAP with folks. Supporting our Colorado Department of Education with community eligibility provision. It's kind of like a small version of universal meals that different sites or districts can take up on their own, depending on the number of kiddos identified as in poverty in that particular district. So helping additional sites in Colorado apply. Promoting school meals in Colorado. Our school food authorities work really hard to make tasty meals that meet guidelines. So making sure we're promoting all the good work that they're doing. A big one, supporting passage of FF, Healthy School Meals for All. Colorado was the first state to pass Healthy School Meals for All on the ballot. Really, really proud to support that effort. So beginning next year, universal school meals in Colorado for free for every single student on the federal school lunch program. Additionally, looking at more federal level work, Farm Bill listening sessions with our network of advocates statewide, making sure that we're kind of casting the widest net possible, hearing from everyone in regards to how we should be addressing the Farm Bill as those talks really kick off on the Hill this year in a big way. Partnering with the Colorado Department of Education for Medicaid direct certification pilot for school meals. So looking at Medicaid as a proxy for eligibility for school meals as well, which helps increase our reimbursement for Healthy School Meals for All. It's a unique pilot, not every state has it, so we're really happy to support that. And this is the last four, I promise. But efforts to improve county work management systems, so all counties have the same access to high-end technological optimized tools to enroll people in SNAP. We administer our state's food pantry assistance grant, so we've created a great network of community reviewers who look over applications and dole out money equitably across the state with a focus on underserved communities and organizations led by BIPOC folks as well. Leading efforts to create a community access program in the Department of Ag in conjunction with Nourish Colorado that look at lower prices for healthy foods in underserved areas. And then the final one in the bottom right corner, wonky SNAP provision called Heat and Eat, but basically creates a universal SNAP utility deduction across the state of Colorado, increasing benefits for everyone, making sure that everybody, regardless of some of your household circumstances around utilities, has access to the highest possible utility deduction. So using enhancement dollars there as well. I'm going to hand things off to Dolores, our website, endhungerco.org, if you want to check out more of the work, but Dolores is going to step in now and talk about the future and what we're doing going forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Joel. Hello, everyone. As Joel mentioned, my name is Dolores Ramirez. I serve as the Vision Director for the Colorado Blueprint to End Hunger, and it is such a pleasure and such an honor for me to be able to join in as part of this collective impact work. And my goodness, as I was sitting reflecting on just the amount of work that we've been able to achieve, it really it highlights not only the importance of collective impact type of work, but also the power of people coming together to reduce hunger across our state. And so with that, I also want to just give a very brief update on, you see Joel walked through what we've been through or our journey to get to this moment in time. And I'll just give a quick update on where we're going. And really, as we recognize and as we've been in this journey, the blueprint was creative very intentionally, very iterative. It's very purposeful. And as we develop and evolve into our future as a connector in the food space, we plan to do so by more deeply centering diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging through a larger focus on community-driven goals and solutions. And as such, the blueprint and our leadership and our governing council has made a decision that as we look beyond the 5 years, we want to transform the organization by engaging in an intensive strategic planning process co-led by the community, with our community, to obtain consensus on our guiding principles of innovation, system transformation, impact, and co-creation of long-term strategies and goals. And to do this, we are going to be releasing a request for a proposal in the coming weeks to begin the transformation process. So we're going to be seeking out a strategic planning consultant with a really strong focus, again, on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. We are also currently hiring for a visibility manager to support the blueprint in keeping all of our network partners appraised of the transformation process and ensure that we are creating intentional spaces for feedback and continued collaboration. So I will link that description in the chat here shortly. And I will just wrap up with sharing, while no one should presuppose the outcomes of our strategic planning process at the blueprint, our blueprint team fully anticipates that we will continue to play the role of a connector, of a convener, facilitator in this role to support our partners in community leadership and policy and advocacy, service and production in the food space, because we have found, and as Joelle clearly described, there has been a lot of success, and this work is worth doing, and we are just more than anything excited about the opportunity to do so by taking forward solutions that are co-created alongside with our most marginalized and our most impacted community members who are facing these issues, the issue of hunger every day. And so with that, I will wrap up and I'll pass it back to Minerva, but are also happy to take any questions in the chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you both. Wow, what an impressive set of accomplishments. And it's really wonderful to see. I have a question. I know we're waiting to see if anyone has questions, so feel free to put it in the Q&A or to raise your hands, and I'm happy to unmute you so you can, speak. So, as you kind of go through this process, and there is so much work that has been accomplished, I'm curious, like, how you're really selfishly for the rest of the fields, like how and if you're documenting how some of this work has gotten done to be able to try to replicate some of these wins in other states.
Such a great question, Minerva. Yeah, Dolores, if it's okay with you, I'll jump in and please feel free to add anything. As we've been continuing to implement the blueprint, that the need to sort of best document and message out some of the work and the lessons learned has become really apparent. So one of the things we're currently doing is hiring for a visibility manager who will undertake a long-term strategic visioning process to really capture not only the work that we've done, but the work of transformation as well, and kind of how that goes into sort of publicly create, like you sort of said, like a documentation of that process. We have heard that, especially in Colorado, there are local coalitions that are sort of mirroring the blueprint framework, which we're so excited about. It's really, really cool to hear that in places like Pueblo and Jefferson County, that similar coalitions with a similar framework have stood up to do that work. So we want to learn from them and their best practices as well. So that'll be a major focus of our work over the next 2 years, is kind of capturing that historic record almost so that it can be replicated elsewhere.
Thank you so much for that. And I think, we certainly are excited to hear that and would be happy to help you disseminate that information. I think one of the challenges for groups that are trying to do similar work is that local context is everything, right? So the blueprint for Colorado is the blueprint for Colorado. And while other states may share similar goals, their methods of achieving those goals might be different because of their specific state, sort of situation, be it social, political, geographic, all sorts of issues. So, but it's great to have those examples, and thank you for leading the way on that. Right now, I actually don't see any questions, which I'm very surprised at, but hopefully people will take this information back and digest it. And I know we will share out the PowerPoint presentation that you shared, and I'm sure people will also want to be able to follow up. So we may have some follow-up questions for you. But before I let you both go, just one last question for both of you. What has been the most gratifying part of this process for you personally?
First, you go ahead.
It's a great question. I will start off by saying that every day that we have an opportunity to engage with our network partners is truly an honor, because it is work that desperately needs to get done. And so just having gratitude in that. I think the other thing that I am very energized by is, as we look towards transformation, the opportunity to dream about how might the blueprint transform and carry the wealth and the strength of all of our partners, but in addition, include more community perspective, include those solutions that are felt in our communities to carry the work forward. I think that is something that inevitably will lead us to a better place, because not only will it elevate the voice and the perspective of communities that for too long have been marginalized, have been left out of the conversation as we're creating policies and solutions. And I think this opportunity really for us is incredibly energizing. And we're really looking forward to see what we can achieve, and also be able to share with our partners, as we're going through this journey for us, what are some lessons learned? What can we share so that as others continue to replicate this and include and be more cognizant and more aware of including community members, what have we learned, and so that others can take some insight from our experience.
Wonderful. Joelle, we do have a question before we get to what are you grateful for in this process. So someone is echoing my comments about amazing work that's been done, and is very curious to know about the experience of county and state entities, in particular dealing with the bureaucracy that's needed to create and implement new program elements. So maybe you can comment on that.
Great question. And I actually just presented on that this morning at a FRAC webinar on standard utility deductions and administrative advocacy and how to do it. So I feel well positioned to answer that at this moment as somebody who's worked both in the State Department overseeing SNAP, and then also here as an advocate. I think it's incredibly important. And my philosophy and kind of our philosophy of the blueprint is no matter how much effort and energy it takes to collaborate positively with state entities, because it takes a lot of time and effort and energy, and you have to circle back, make sure communications are clear, and that everybody, you kind of know where everyone's at continuously. And there are times where you have to maybe defer and put their priorities first, or acknowledge the barriers that they're seeing to implementation, which there are many. Regardless of all of that, it's always easier to accomplish things together. Always. I've been on the bomb throwing side of, kind of trying to force through things without the state entities. And I've been on the side of moving slowly with the state entities to accomplish goals together. And it's always better if you do the latter. It's always easier. And from there, you build trust. You start with the small wins, the priorities of the state, acknowledge what they are, acknowledge the barriers, and work in conjunction with them to provide resources that you have as advocates to support them, which we do. We have tons of resources as advocates that we may not acknowledge. We have a lot of tools in our kit, such as leveraging public will around media, such as leveraging political will and having conversations with our federal delegates or our state partners, state legislators, to kind of drive forward change. We have research capacity and bandwidth. We can solicit private funding to support the state in certain areas. We have a lot of tools in our kit that the state doesn't have. And so we can bring those to the table. And so if you focus on those small wins together, as as painfully slow as it can be sometimes, because they have to go through their proper channels, and there's so many people they're accountable to. But if you build on those, then the trust builds. And then, at this point, I think we have one of the strongest relationships with our state departments of any state in the country, because I do have that look into the national network of what's going on. And I think it's really helpful because we're able to collaborate on a lot of things together, just so long as we're cognizant that they're people who are trying to do the good work as well, but their process is different. And just looking at the ways that we can, collaborate together, be accountable together, and sort of acknowledge the good work that they're doing, as well as the areas where there's still work to be done, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, it helps us accomplish a lot more. And there's a lot of great work that we're taking on with the state in tandem that I don't think we'd be able to even get close to if we didn't have that positive relationship. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that great insight. So last question to you. What do you find gratifying in the work?
Yeah, I would say
most gratifying.
Yeah, everything Dolores said was spot on. seeing how folks are feeling empowered in local communities and how we're able to support them. You know, we're very fortunate as an organization to be well resourced by our support through the Colorado Health Foundation. So being able to pay that forward and support other entities and organizations, and just hearing about, you know, we're so in it that sometimes I miss. I know everything that's going on, but I sometimes don't take that time to stop and reflect on the things that we're accomplishing. And so hearing about it from a partner, you know, a few weeks later, hey, that was so wonderful, or we did this with it, or we've used this tool to accomplish XYZ. I'm just kind of like, I'm blown away whenever I have those conversations with folks, because I'm like, oh, good. I'm glad it landed. I'm glad it was useful. I hope what we're doing is useful and necessary. And there are things that I don't even like, that just kind of like, you know, pass in and out of my head, that I don't take the time to acknowledge completely, that somebody will bring up a year later as super helpful, which I'm so grateful for. So that's great.
Wonderful. Well, thank you both for your time today. We certainly appreciate you and the work that you're doing, and look forward to just continuing to peek in the journey that you've undertaken with all of your partners there in Colorado. So thank you so much today, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. So I'd like to introduce now Jillian Humphreys, and really appreciate Jillian's time today. Jillian comes to us from Benefits Data Trust. And I think that for those of you who are not familiar with this group, I think you're going to be very interested in the work that they're doing. And I think that there are a lot of synergies between many of the work of our partners and what they're doing at Benefits Data Trust. So Jillian, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Minerva. So I am Jillian Humphreys. I am a policy manager with Benefits Data Trust. I have been working with BDT since April of last year. Prior to that, I worked for 13 years in local county government in North Carolina, where I grew in my experience with administering benefits for Medicaid, SNAP program, daycare subsidies, all of the different enrollment programs. So I was very excited to come over to BDT, and today I'm going to share with you a little bit of information about us and about what we currently are doing. So I'm going to start telling you a little bit about our organization. Okay, great. Let me know if you have any problems seeing or hearing me, but we'll get started. So Benefits Data Trust, our goal is to help people today and modernize benefits access for tomorrow. And we do that in a lot of different ways. As I said, I'm a policy manager on the policy team, but we have lots of different teams. So what we have going on is just a small tidbit of what the whole organization is doing. So for those of you who don't know, BDT, we are a national nonprofit. We harness the power of data, technology, and policy to provide efficient and dignified access to assistance and improve people's health and financial security. The vision for BDT is that we envision a world that connects people with essential benefits and services while treating them with dignity and respect. Lower healthcare costs, more efficient government, and people who are healthy, economically mobile, and thriving. I'm sure most of you already know this, but some of the reasons we do what we do is because an recently updated number, is that $80 billion in benefits are left on the table every year. More than 1 in 10 Americans are living in poverty, and more than 9 million people are missing out on needed benefits, and we try to bridge that gap. The reason we try to bridge that gap is why the benefits matter. That saves $1,400 per year per adult in healthcare costs. It improves children's reading and math scores and increases high school graduation rates. And for SNAP, for the older population, for adults 65 and older, it saves over $2,100 per person, reduces the likelihood of hospitalization, and reduces nursing home utilization. In addition, WIC improves immunization rates among children, and Medicaid decreases mortality and increases high school and college completion. As Minerva said, we'll be sharing this PowerPoint afterwards, and a lot of the information and the resources for this can be found here. So please feel free to look at the slide deck when you have time, and you can get a lot more information about what we're talking about here. So some of the barriers we have found to access to benefits is lack of knowledge about benefits, cumbersome application processes, limited mobility, stigma associated with applying for benefits, and technology issues. We try to, again, address some of those issues. We do that through direct service, partner engagement, policy and practice solutions, which again is the team that I am on, and data analytics and technology. Again, there are a lot of pieces to BDT. So what we're talking about here is just a small piece, but I really encourage everyone to take a look around, go to our website, and if you have questions, please reach out to us. You can reach me at jhumphreys@bdtrust.org. So if you have any questions or want to be led to the right direction, just reach out to me and I can get you those resources. The impact that BDT has had, this information is a little outdated. The most recent information I have right now is from 2020. But since 2005, since this organization was created, over $7.5 billion in benefits have been delivered, and over 1 million applications have been submitted. For 2020, over 143,000 inbound calls, over 93,000 applications were submitted, over 62,000 enrollments into benefits, and over 36,000 referrals to community partners, coming to an estimated $2,892 in benefits per household annually. You can see some of the states where we currently work. Some states we provide policy and practice assistance to states. Other states we provide enrollment assistance to individuals, as well as policy and practice to assistance to states. So some of these ones where we provide enrollment assistance, we actually have contact centers where there's outreach completed. They call into our the clients call into our contact center, and we assist them with completing the application, getting it submitted, and oftentimes also gathering the documents and ensuring the documents they need for verifications are appropriate. So those are some of the things that we're doing right now. So how we do that, I'm going to share with you 3 recent projects that we've been working on to address some of these issues. One is a toolkit, the WIC toolkit. It's increasing WIC coverage through cross-program data matching and targeted outreach. So the goal here is that we know more than 40% of eligible individuals have missed out on the WIC program, which is this special supplemental nutrition program for women, infants, and children. Even though we know that the program has a well-documented history of dietary health and developmental benefits, many of those missing out on WIC are enrolled in SNAP or Medicaid, and that makes them automatically eligible for the WIC program. This toolkit is designed to help state and local WIC agencies leverage the data from Medicaid and SNAP to measure enrollment gaps, increase enrollment using tools to plan, launch, and strengthen data matching, and provide targeted outreach to eligible families who are not receiving WIC benefits. The toolkit, for those who find this toolkit necessary, it sets project goals for increasing WIC participation and enrolling a greater share of adjunctively eligible families, develop a comprehensive work plan for launching data matching and targeted outreach, plan an evaluation that measures towards the goals and it can improve, guide improvements over time, and benefits from lessons learned in other states that have already done the matching for Medicaid and SNAP for WIC data for enrollment gap and conducted targeted outreach. For more information about this toolkit and to download this toolkit, I've provided the link to the website here. You can put this in your search engine, or you can, when we have the slide deck available, go to this link and gather information. You can download the WIC toolkit and get a lot more information about who to contact if you have more questions. There are also links to other resources here. So again, the goal of this toolkit is to increase enrollment in the WIC program because we know that it creates better outcomes for women, infants, and children, and that there is a large gap, an enrollment gap for that program. So I encourage you to check this out on our site. Another one that's brand new is the DSA playbook. So this is the data sharing playbook, data sharing to build effective and efficient systems, a playbook for state and local agencies. So this was designed to support administering government agencies and other sectors such as healthcare, higher education, and research entities scope and implement successful data sharing projects with legal considerations in mind. BDT's policy attorney played a large role in the creation of this DSA playbook, and we've already received a lot of really positive feedback on it from the agencies that we've worked with. So again, you can go to the site, download the playbook. Also, I think it was a week before last, BDT hosted a webinar featuring government officials who have been able to share impactful and innovative data sharing efforts. So if you did not get a chance to see that webinar, you can still see the recording. So I encourage everyone to go online, check out the data sharing playbook, share it with anybody that you might find useful, and also review the webinar, which was really interesting and informative. Finally, the SNAP and Medicaid data coordination project is something that I'm working on. So if you had questions specific to this project, you could feel free to reach out directly to me. Again, jhumphreys@bdtrust.org. But you can also go online to get more information about this project. So this is a project we are working on with the Center for Healthcare Strategies with funding from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, where we did a nationwide survey to gather information on how states share data across Medicaid and SNAP for the purposes of streamlining access to benefits, as well as how they share with third parties. So we completed the survey. We got 46 state responses plus the District of Columbia. And we recently published our first phase of the report with key findings from this survey. The 3 key findings from the survey were integration is not necessary for data sharing across programs. We found that states without integrated SNAP and Medicaid systems share data at almost the same rate as those that have integrated systems. So that's important for states to know so that they don't think that that's an immediate barrier to them to being able to share data. We have ways that they can do that even if they're not integrated yet. The second key finding was that states commonly share SNAP and Medicaid data with third parties, most often with managed care organizations and nonprofits. So we provide some great examples there, including how state agencies have shared data with us, BDT as a nonprofit, for the purposes of us being able to provide outreach and assistance with application submissions. And then finally, a key finding was that Medicaid and SNAP data sharing occurs in states across the political spectrum, regardless of the state size or region. So again, the goal there is to show that there's not really any limitations, regardless of where your state stands. There are ways to share data for the purpose of streamlining access to benefits. So we finished the survey, and just this month, we released the first phase of the report. Some things to look forward to is that the Center for Healthcare Strategies is working on 3 case studies with states that they believed provided important information in the survey that could be good lessons learned to other states that are interested. In addition, we have a second phase of the report coming out that's going to be focused more on recommendations to states outside of the key findings that we found. We will also be having some webinars with CHCS and a virtual peer convening, as well as providing technical assistance to states towards the end of this year. So I, again, encourage you to go online, check out that project, and keep an eye on things that have been published and that will continue to be published throughout this year. So those are 3 major things that we're working on, and that is the gist of BDT for now, but I do want you to go online and learn more because there's so much more that we're doing. These are just the main focuses that the policy team specifically has been working on, but we're very excited about these things.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jillian. I know that there was a question from Katie. Can you share the site in the chat, which I did share the bdtrust.org site, but I don't know if there was something more specific that she was thinking about. So Katie, I might just go ahead and unmute you so that you can ask your question.
Oh, she just had a link on the slide that I was looking at. So I'm on the website, but I wasn't sure where that specific link was.
Yes. I have a lot of links in the slide deck. So when we share that out, I would go through there. But were you specifically thinking of the SNAP and Medicaid coordination one? Is that what you were looking at? Okay. I will share that link right now with you in the group chat.
Thanks.
Great. And Katie, I think you guys are in a state where they actually do direct enrollment in benefits in Texas. That's one of the states, Jillian, where you guys do direct enrollment for constituents. And so that would be something I think to share out if it's not something you're already sharing with your partners, Katie. But I do have a question, Jillian. So for those of us who are in states where maybe you're not doing the direct enrollment, or you're not supporting partners that are doing direct enrollment, what can you talk about in terms of what are some of the resources, for those states? Is it the kind of reports that you do on the various project and guidance? Anything else you want to share? Particularly for those states where you're not actively working?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for the states where we're not actively working, for all of the states really, but we have a great amount of resources and toolkits available on our website, and those are free to download for anybody. So any states that are interested in some of the toolkits that have been created, they're welcome to go online, download those toolkits, and work their way through some of those fantastic resources. For states that are interested in maybe working with BDT, I can get you in touch with partnerships and cultivation to sort of grow those relationships if you are looking for technical assistance. But I would first go through the resources that are available and free to download to see if they're useful to you, and if you need additional assistance or are looking for technical assistance for implementing those things, then you can reach out to us and see how we might be able to make that happen. Those are just the states that we work with right now, but if there are states that are interested in working with us, I would definitely get somebody connected with somebody on our cultivation team to make that happen. But a lot of the resources we have are free.
Thanks so much, Jillian. At this point, I don't see any other questions in the Q&A. So just want to thank you for your time today. And I know that there's really a wealth of resources through your website, and we look forward to staying in touch. Thank you so much, Jillian.
Thank you, Minerva.
Have a great day. So next, I just really want to open, we do this every meeting, just want to open the floor for any of you who want to make announcements, whether that's just sharing a bit about what's happening in your organizations, or just any announcements you may want to make about work that you're doing, or resources that you're looking for, or ways that you're looking to connect maybe with other groups. So you can put something in the Q&A or the chat, or you can feel free to raise your hands and I'll unmute you so you can speak. Okay, I don't see anyone right now, so we'll just kind of keep that as an keep that open as an offer to anyone who wants to speak up before the end of the meeting. One thing I did want to do with you all was share really the Alliance to End Hunger priorities for 2023. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and do this. So the Alliance to End Hunger, as you know, we are a coalition of national, international nonprofits, as well as faith networks, corporations, universities, and foundations. Part of part of what we do at the Alliance, a big part of it is advocacy on many of the federal nutrition programs and issues that we care about. And we go through, somebody that had shared this slide. We go through a process every year to set those priorities, and we do that at the end of every year. And so this week, our board of directors will be blessing our 2023 priorities, but I did want to share them with this group. So of course, at the Alliance, we have an overarching theme. And for those of you who may not be familiar, we work on hunger both in the US and around the world. And our overarching themes are to end hunger, to improve health outcomes for vulnerable communities, and to ensure greater equity in anti-hunger policies. And so we do have different legislative priorities for the US and the work we're doing internationally. For the purposes of this meeting, I'll focus on our US-based priorities. Although sort of the big priority for everyone in the anti-hunger sector this year will be the Farm Bill, and really seeking improvements through the Farm Bill to some of the big federal nutrition programs like SNAP, like the Emergency Food Assistance Program, like the Commodity Supplemental Food Program. And so right now at the Alliance, we are drafting those Farm Bill priorities, and I will be sharing those out with all of you, our local partners, as we do that. And so for SNAP, some of the things we're looking at are really looking to defend the improvements that have been made over in SNAP over the last few years. So protecting the increase in benefits that happened with the Thrifty Food Plan refresh. I know that's not the official word that they used, but USDA went through a process where they updated the Thrifty Food Plan, which is the basis for SNAP benefits, and really had it come in line more with the cost of food today, as well as a number of other factors that they looked at, and they increased SNAP benefits by 21% overall. And that did happen October 2021. And so right now there's some talk among this Congress about potentially rolling that back, or really wanting to investigate how that increase was made. So we really want to be in a position to talk about the importance of that increase, especially with, you know, I think you all know, but at the end of February and beginning of March, we'll see the end of the additional SNAP allotments for states that haven't already ended those. But when the SNAP allotments that were done as a pandemic provision are set to expire, and they were set to expire when the public health emergency ended. However, through the omnibus, it was negotiated that, you know, in order to get some concessions around ending those SNAP allotments early, there were certain improvements that were made to summer programs, including making permanent the summer EBT program, which was a demonstration project, as well as creating a non-congregate option for summer meals. So we were very supportive of those particular provisions, and really happy to see that. But we will be continuing to really flesh out how we think the Farm Bill can be improved, whether that's improving access to SNAP, you know, making sure that we're defending some of the current program elements that we want to make sure that we keep. You know, so for example, preserving choice in SNAP rather than restricting food choices in SNAP is something that we're going to be very keen to do. So like I said, we'll be sharing those Farm Bill priorities with you fairly soon. But the Farm Bill is only one of sort of our legislative priorities in 2023. The other ones are child nutrition improvements. So of course, we all were very disappointed not to have a child nutrition reauthorization pass last year. However, we even though this is a farm bill year and really there's very little hope for a child nutrition reauthorization, we think that there are probably some key improvements that we can move in this Congress, particularly around WIC. We're looking at moving some of the telehealth and remote online options that started during the pandemic for certification of WIC. And we'd like to see that really continue. So we'll be working with other national partners like National WIC Association to try to get those extended and put into law this year. So you'll be hearing about that from us, and hopefully many of you will join us in those efforts in your communities as we talk about, what improvements we can make in child nutrition programs, even though there won't be a child nutrition reauthorization. So we're looking to what those key opportunities are. As always, we'll be, fighting for the most funding that we can get for food and nutrition programs. And so that is something that's always on the table at the Alliance. Other things that we're looking at is how can we advance some of the points that were in the national strategy on hunger, nutrition, and health. We were thrilled to see that so many of the items in the strategic plan for the Biden administration were also items that we had on our policy agenda. So we'll be advancing those and looking for opportunities in this Congress or through this administration, maybe through rulemaking, to make some significant changes there. Otherwise, in general, we'll be looking for opportunities to advance nutrition outcomes related to social determinants of health and maternal health. So for example, the Momnibus will be reauthorized, will be reintroduced in this Congress, and we're going to be advocating for passage of that. So that's just an overview of some of our priorities at the Alliance for 2023. Obviously, these are big picture priorities. We'll definitely be sharing more details with you as we move forward in terms of what this actually means. It might be sign-on letters that we ask you to participate in, or for having a meeting in your state with your member of Congress, we might invite you to join us. And really would love to have all of you active with us as we do our advocacy work in your states. So just wanted to give you that overview. Happy to take any questions at this time. And certainly look out for more information as the year kind of rolls out in terms of what the Alliance will be doing in these areas. But I'm happy to share this out as well after the fact. And like I said, we will be rolling out our Farm Bill priorities fairly soon. So feel free to follow up with any questions for me, and we will be following up soon. So at this point, I'll take any questions on our legislative priorities for the year, or any other comments that folks want to make before we wrap up. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing that screen. All right. Well, I don't see any hands raised or questions. So thank you all for your time today. We really appreciate it. And our next webinar is it's going to be in about 3 months, so you'll get an email from us about the specific date on that. But if you have any suggestions about future topics, as always, please feel free to email me. We're always open to your suggestions. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Really appreciate it. And have a good day, everyone.